All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Fitness Competitors Guide. Today, we have a very, very special guest. We have Jaclyn Baker here, and she's going to be talking about how dance has helped her with fitness. And I don't think she needs much of an intro unless you've been living under a rock or totally new to fitness. But Jaclyn, could you go ahead and introduce yourself a bit?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jaclyn Baker, IFBB Fitness Pro. I just placed second at both the Arnold's and the Olympia this year, and it was my 5th year in both of them. So feeling really good, feeling really happy about my placing, and just keep climbing, moving on up. And yeah.
And oh yeah, I wanted to say congratulations on those
Thank you.
placings. That is amazing. I know you've been steadily climbing up, and it's just so exciting too to see you like getting to the top and everything. So, all right, let's just get into it. So, you have a very extensive background in dance. I know you were a professional dancer for a while. So, could you just kind of go over just what was it like for you transitioning from dance to bodybuilding?
So I guess I should start by saying my transition was very thought out because I was done dancing in my head. I had danced for 10 years professionally in New York City and around, a lot of different places, a lot of different companies. And I was coming to the end of my career, and I was actually just interviewing for what I called like a real person job, where like I just wanted a desk job and 401k and health insurance. And then I met my coach at a gym, and he was looking for someone to train. And so I started training for figure. So I was kind of in the headspace of no longer dancing or gymnastics or anything like that. So my transition to bodybuilding was just another way for me to be on stage in my mind, and another, I guess, physical outlet. And then slowly I transitioned into fitness about, I think, a year and a half after I was already training for bodybuilding. And so that's where I like combined my dance and my bodybuilding backgrounds together. I would say part of it was really easy to transition because I've been on stage all my life. I've always been regimented and had a schedule and all that kind of stuff. And then part of it was very hard because it's, as far as fitness goes, it's very different than dance. Where what the judges want or what the judges reward or what reads better from the audience is a little bit different than dance. So I always had to joke that I had to take my dancer hat off and put like my bodybuilding hat on and go into it that way. So there was some stuff that was really easy and some stuff that took a little bit of time.
Oh, that's really interesting because like talking to other competitors with like different backgrounds, they were saying like, oh yeah, the dancers seem to have like they take to the stage really easily and naturally. So what on your dancer hat was like holding you back, I would say, from the bodybuilding aspects and fitness aspects?
So I'm not sure I would use the term holding me back. It was just what choreographers and dancers and judges in the dance world look for is not always what's the bodybuilding, I call it bodybuilding land, is looking for. So it's like, it's not so much that it was hard for me or held me back from my routines, but it was like something as simple as people tell me that I make my routines look too easy because I'm always moving and everything that I do looks simple. Whereas the skills necessarily aren't simple, but I make it look easy. In dance land, that's a huge compliment.
Yeah.
In bodybuilding land, sometimes it looks too easy.
Oh, that is so
it's
interesting.
not rewarded for being hard if it looks
right.
easy.
Right, especially because the judges don't know the skills and what's actually entailed in it. So they're like, I don't know. That was too simple for you.
I've heard that a couple of times, and more recently as my career, as I've gotten higher in my career, that I make things look very easy. And in my head, I'm like, that's great.
Yeah.
That's like one of the biggest compliments you can get as a dancer. And what I realize is that maybe it looks too easy. Like I either don't have the skills or that's not hard for me to do. So it's not a high level skill.
Interesting. Yeah. So do you have to do anything to like fake it to be a little harder?
Well, I joked with one of my choreographers in the past. I was like, I guess I'm supposed to make it look hard, but it's not in my nature, and it's not what makes me feel comfortable on stage. So I don't do that. I really am a firm believer in staying true to myself through all of this. And so what I do is I kind of take that and how can I make that work with how I move? Or it might be like we use the music to really accentuate something that I'm doing so that it doesn't get lost in the transition. So it's not so much that I will start like panting or grunting just because. Maybe I should, I don't know.
You can experiment at one show to see how it goes.
Exactly. But yeah, it's more of just kind of taking that observation and then working on how I can make my routines, the skills that I'm doing that are hard, stand out more, as opposed to just blend through.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, very interesting. So then, oh, sorry, I had a question. And okay. So then things that were actually hard then, like of the mandatory skills and things, what did you actually like really have to work on?
So the things, I mean, they're not really in our mandatory skills. There's only 4, handstand, high kick, push-up of any kind, and a split. So all of those I could do pretty much my whole life. I would say the push-up flies were things that I really had to work on and I'm still working on. And handstand holds. Prior to bodybuilding, I could only walk on my hands, which to normal people sounds like, okay, well, that's amazing. But to actually hold a static handstand for me is much, much harder. And I actually could not do that 4 years ago. So like a straddle press that you see a lot of people do, or you see some of the women who like actually press down to one hand. That's all skills that I'm still working on. And that's like one of the things that I've had to learn as an adult in bodybuilding.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize you only started doing that recently. It's just like all your other skills are so amazing I didn't even notice.
The first time I ever did a straddle press was 2019 on the Olympia stage. The first time I'd ever done it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I didn't even know how to do that skill. I had never even tried it. And then from, I think it was Miami, I won. And then from Miami to that 2019 Olympia, I practiced, I met with some gymnastics coaches to add it into my routine. And then I learned it. And then I've been practicing and kind of adding to that skill each year.
So would you say like those kind of static holds in are where you, when you are training for fitness, where you put most of your like energy and effort
that's really the only skills that I train. As far as like the tumbling and things like that, I've had to be honest, since I was like 5 years old. So when I got back into fitness, I had to not relearn them, but just like get back into doing them as an adult. But all those skills I've had. Yeah. Oh, I meant to ask, what style of dance were you focused on? So I went to school at the University of Arizona for dance, and I danced all styles, ballet, jazz, tap, modern. And then when I danced professionally, I danced for 2 contemporary companies in the city. So like jazz, lyrical, ballet based. And then I danced for Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines for a year. I danced with Sting and Alice Cooper. On random gigs. So I did a lot of like random stuff, did a lot of musical theater work. But classically trained in ballet, jazz. Yeah.
Cool. Oh, that is awesome. Did you have to do like dance competitions as a kid and everything?
Yeah, I was a competitive dancer my whole life.
Wow.
And I think it's funny because bodybuilding has brought me back to that competitive nature. And from college to my 30s, when I started bodybuilding, there was none of that. And I think I kind of missed it. So the past, I guess it's almost 8 years now, I've been back in competition world and I enjoy it. So
nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Sorry, I've got a cheat sheet to make sure I ask all the right questions.
Okay.
So wait. Okay, so you've mentioned that the flips and like most of the mandatories have been pretty easy. It's the strength holds that were a little bit harder. Is there any other feedback you've received where you're like, maybe that's a dance thing I should stop doing? And like
in the beginning, yes. In the beginning, there were things like you're too slow, don't do any pirouettes, which we call in dancers or turns, too long of a dance break. But now that I've gotten kind of, I guess, like in my groove as far as like what I like to do and what the judges seem to respond well to, I haven't gotten much feedback other than keep going, you're doing great.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple, working on the strength holds, working on the push-ups, that's always, I know that. So it's, I don't need to really hear it from a judge, but when I do, I'm like, I'm working. Like, so most of my feedback is pretty positive. But in the beginning it was, you're too slow, or work on more strength moves, or, things like that.
Yeah. Why don't they like pirouettes? I always think they're cool.
You know what? I think that a lot of times there are just certain skills that in the judge's mind are too dancey.
Okay.
And it's not necessarily that they don't like them. It's just that it's not fitness, I guess.
Okay.
And I'm sure you could ask, there's 7 to 9 judges. You could ask each judge and they have a different opinion. That's why it's such a subjective sport.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
To answer your question, I just I think it becomes what they would call too dancey.
Interesting. Is that, do you ever like get frustrated by that when it's like, just give me some criteria or something more specific to work with? Because I understand dance can be very specific.
I think sometimes, yeah, but like I said, because I was in the competitive dance world for so long, which is so subjective also, I think I have a good head on my shoulders as far as like, it's an opinion, and that, like, you can't line 7 to 12 people up and they're all going to have the same opinion. So, at times it can be frustrating, but at the same token, it's like, that's what you're getting yourself into. So you have to kind of know that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people will be like, oh, the criteria changes. I'm like, the criteria doesn't really change. It's just who shows up on that day, looks good, the judges like it, and that's how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a healthy way to look at it. But get too frustrated.
You have to with this sport. Otherwise, you could drive yourself crazy. Like, oh, well, they like this person liked this, that person didn't like this. You go on and on for days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you some choreography questions.
Sure.
So do you primarily do your choreography yourself, or do you have other people help out?
So I have a choreographer. His name is Grady Bowman. We worked together when I was younger, dancing. Very, very good friend of mine. So he choreographs my routines, but also my coach helps to design them. So they work together. So we all work together as a team. And then my older sister is a dancer also, and she works also with us. So it kind of like depends on the year, but it'll go like my coach will find a song, or my choreographer will find a song, or I'll find a song, whoever. We send it to each other and we're like, yeah, that works. No, that doesn't work. I like this. I like that. I want you to do a handstand on this part, and then we kind of like, and then I get in the studio with my choreographer. We design something. We send it to my coach. He's like, yeah, I like this. I like where this is going. Let's put this section here. And then my sister will rehearse with me and practice with me. And so it's kind of a team effort. So I don't do any of it on my own, actually.
Oh, wow. That is really interesting.
Well, I shouldn't say that. There are times when I'm like, what about if we did it this way? Or my choreographer will be like, try this. And I'm like, oh, wait, I think it works this way. Like that kind of stuff. I don't get in the studio and choreograph on my own.
Oh, wow. Is that because it's just, you prefer to have the team there, or okay.
Like I choreograph other people's fitness routines, but for myself, I prefer someone else to do it for me.
Yeah. Is it because it's less pressure for you? Just just one less thing for you to worry about?
I think it's just because that's what I've always known.
Okay.
Like I was never a choreographer when I was in the dance world. I was always the dancer. So I think for me, that's what comes more natural. And I did, like I said, I choreograph for fitness competitors now, and I did kid stuff when I was dancing, but nothing like professionally. So I think it's just what I'm used to. Someone telling me what to do and I copy it, and that's it.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's so interesting. Because I mean, just for me, it's like, for me, I like the choreography part because it's like my little artistic outlet, I guess, versus everything else I do. But
yeah, I honestly, I just never thought of doing it myself, and I just enjoy working with someone else. So yeah.
Nice.
And it's not like I don't have a say. I think if it was someone who was like, this is the way it is, and that's it, then I
Yeah.
wouldn't enjoy it as much, but we kind of like all mesh and meld together, so it works well.
Nice. Is that so this team you have then, is that what you started with right away when you first did
No,
your show?
no, actually. So when I started figure, obviously I wasn't doing a routine. And then my coach was like, let's try fitness. And I called one of my friends who I had just finished dancing in a company with. And he lived here in the city. And he was like, yeah, sure, let's get in the studio and just play around and see what you can still do. Like I hadn't tumbled in probably, I don't know, like 6, 7, maybe even more than that years. So like, I don't even know what skills I have. Will you come get in a studio with me and see if I can still do a back handspring or anything? So we kind of did that. And he choreographed my routine from 2017 to 2019. And my coach helped kind of similarly. And unfortunately, in 2020, he passed away. So from then on, that week that I found out I was getting ready for 2020 Olympia, and it was such a crazy Olympia because it was COVID.
Right.
And I called my very close friend. I was like, this is like the worst timing to call you because my friend just passed away, but I need someone now to help me.
Mhm.
So he jumped on board right away. He was like, no problem. Let's get it done. So that's how that all happened. So that
Wow.
I've been with him since 2020.
Okay.
And then my
Wow.
same coach and my sister.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear about your friend,
That's
but sorry
okay.
for your loss.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.
So then, uh, going back a little bit to just things about fitness and training and stuff. Um, since hindsight is 2020, is there anything you think you would have done differently when you first started competing?
In all realms or in fitness or
Just anything to help you with fitness, I guess.
I would say as far as the physique goes, I would have stayed closer to a meal plan in my off season or improvement season. I feel like there was that like imbalance of dieting and not dieting and in control and not control. And I feel like that wasn't a good place for me. So that would be one thing that I really recommend for newbies and, anyone that's really serious about their body or getting into the fitness world. Or I don't believe that it's a 16-week, 20-week, 12-week prep and then you just like that's it. If anything, I believe it's a 20-week prep with 16 weeks of in season and 4 weeks of off season, post season at least.
Mhm.
So that's something I would really, really recommend. I don't think you have to be like as regimented. I think you can implement other foods and go out and drink and eat with friends, but you can't just go from like A to Z. So that would be one thing. As far as others, I think I maybe would have started practicing handstands and push-ups and stuff like that earlier. I think I would have gotten into bodybuilding a lot earlier than I did, not at 31. Maybe that's the only thing I could say. Trying to think what else. I don't really have any like regrets or anything. As far as like things I would change, I don't think. I learned a lot along the way, and I think that's part of the process. And, I think it's important to have a coach that's in it with you and wants to be on the full journey with you 365 days a year. So I have that. And I'm trying to think like with fitness. Yeah, I think just maybe learning skills earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the food thing you mentioned,
Yeah.
because I know I struggled that I think I'm going through the same thing where I'm finally I'm like, okay, I understand how you should be in the off season. How long did it take you to finally like get your, I guess, eating in control in the off season?
I would say it's a work in progress for me always. I
Mhm.
think coming from dance land where you're like supposed to be skinny and starve yourself all day, and then you eat pizza and, McDonald's, and then you go back to eating like celery and salads. I think it's always going to be something that I work on. I would say maybe like 3 years in, I kind of like got in a groove and realized what made me feel good. People were always like, oh, why are you still on plan or this and that? And I'm like, that's what makes me feel good. Like, I can't tell you what makes you feel good. So I would say it took me a while, probably a good 3 seasons.
Mhm.
And then my coach realized what I like to look like in the improvement season and what I don't like to look like. And everyone's different. I'm small, petite. I'm only 5'1.5", not even 5'2". So putting on a lot of body fat for me isn't comfortable. I don't like to walk around that way. So I think once my coach and I really found what I like to look like or feel like during my improvement season, was a little bit easier for us to figure out what food works.
Mhm.
And it's all trial and error, right? It's like you have to figure out, are you someone who metabolizes carbs well? Are you metabolize fats well? Do you hold on to muscle well? Do you put on body fat really quickly? Do you like to eat a higher protein? Whatever it is. And then I think it's a lot of trial and error. So it does take time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like what you said about finding what you're comfortable with in the off season, because I think people either try too hard to stick to their prep look or go way too far and just be bloated and like
Yeah,
a little too heavy, you know?
exactly. I mean, for me personally, I don't find it attractive. Like I said, I don't feel good. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's promoting what I do as an athlete
Right.
or as a specialist in nutrition and fitness. If I'm going to try to promote to other people, I should be then in turn doing that
Yeah.
also. But I think it really, really comes down to what you're comfortable with. And I don't believe that you have to put on a ton of body fat to put on muscle.
Yeah.
Will you put on a little? Sure, but that's because you're eating more calories. I don't, I've never heard of fat turning into muscle. So if it does, someone can tell me, but there's no real reason for you to put on 20 pounds of fat just to gain muscle.
Right. Right, for sure. And I had a question about because I've heard this before about dancers having a certain like ideal, or there's an ideal dancer look and everything. Was that hard for you to kind of get out of when you started bodybuilding? Because obviously
It's so
bodybuilding is much more
interesting.
muscular.
So when I was younger, I was very, very petite, like to the point where the doctors thought I was not going to like grow. And then I finally hit puberty in like my late teens, like 16, 17. And then I got to college and I was drinking and partying like all college students do. And so I kind of was what I would call fluffy. I probably didn't even weigh more than I do now, but it was body composition was different.
Mhm.
Um, and so your whole life with dancing, it's like, are your thighs too big? Is your belly jiggling in a half top? Are your arms, jiggling? Are you able to fit in this costume? Can the men lift you up? Those are all things that are focused on as far as body goes. And when I got into bodybuilding, people were like, oh my God, your legs are so big. They're so nice. And I was like, what? And it took me a very long time, still to this day, when people say stuff like that to me, it kind of like initially my dancer brain's like, ooh. And then I'm like, wait, no, that they're giving me a compliment. So it was a good transition for me mentally, but also very hard to transition to that, where people really respected and admired my body as opposed to telling me what was wrong with it. So I think bodybuilding was more positive, a positive transition for me as far as mentally and physically and, like I would say body dysmorphic and all of those sort of things.
Yeah.
Dysmorphia. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great, because I feel like it can go the other way for some people where it becomes too,
Well,
too
I think
focused on it.
I think, bodybuilding does bring, it does kind of have many extreme personalities, which then become a little addictive. And, so if you don't have a good head on your shoulders and you get into bodybuilding with any kind of food disorder or, mental anxiety, OCD, which is a lot of people in bodybuilding, it can go bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we're getting near the end of our time. So, do you have any words of wisdom you'd like to share for, say, people with similar backgrounds and are interested in fitness?
I would say don't be afraid of what you see on stage. Fitness can be anything you want. That held me back from doing fitness the first year because I thought it had to be more cheerleader gymnastics. I didn't realize that I could do what I do and incorporate, more fitness skills. So don't get discouraged when you see high flying back tucks or really high toe touches. None of that's required. So please don't get discouraged. Make sure you're really looking at all the routines and everything. And same side as the physique round, now that's back in NPC and, IFBB. We didn't get to where we are overnight. We've been competing with our physique round our whole careers for most of us. So don't get discouraged and think you have to be huge. I am not a big person. I am 5'1.5". Like I said, I'm 120 pounds on stage. I'm not big. So I think a lot of times when you see athletes on stage at Arnold's or Olympia, you think we're these enormous, huge, muscular giants, or that everyone's doing all these high flying tricks, and that's not really the case. So remember, everyone has to start somewhere.
That's good. I like that. That's a good message. Before we close out, Oxjay, I wanted to know, are you now just training for the Olympia, or no?
So right now, yeah, I was going for I think I went straight for like 9 months. So we're taking this next 4 months as an off-season improvement season, I like to call it, and just prepping for Olympia. There's a chance I may jump into a show right before Olympia, 1 or 2 towards the end of the fall. So we'll see. It kind of depends on my physique, my coach, my body, what my body's doing, and how I feel mentally.
Yeah.
But right now, yeah, the plan is Olympia and probably 1 or 2 before Olympia.
Okay. All right. Well, have a great off season and good luck when the Olympia rolls around. I'll be cheering for you. And thank you so much. I thank you for coming. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.